This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us.
This podcast is brought to you by actual human beings with real thoughts, opinions, and humour. Despite sounding suspiciously articulate, we promise we're not AI, just a couple of carbon-based life forms doing our best to promote great music from the bands that we love, including the Rose. Now back to the podcast.
We're back for episode 15, Into the Wolf Part 2. So listeners, today we're going to dive into the last two tracks on Woosung's solo EP, Wolf. But before we do that, listeners, we have to address
The elephant in the room.
the elephant in the room. I swear I'm real, listeners. I'm not AI. I'm not AI.
You're completely generated.
Are you real or fake? I'm fake. I'm fake as fuck. I'm an AI. So fake. Because, bitch, I'm a ghost. Yeah, I'm fake because you'll never find someone as real as me.
We have gotten so many comments sent to us by a lot of you, right, who saw Dojoon's live, which we will talk about in more detail. But obviously, the big part of it was he created this podcast using AI. And Kelly, it sounded suspiciously familiar, didn't it?
It sounded scarily familiar, to the point I text you because I knew you were slightly off grid at the time.
When I got your text, so listeners, as she said, I was visiting my mom. My mom lives kind of out in the country in the United States in an area where there isn't good cell reception, there isn't good internet. And I get Kelly's text though. I'm like out of the house and it's like, what the fuck? This is really weird. And I'm like in all caps. I'm like, what's happening? What's going down? I don't know what's going on. I couldn't watch his live stream when it was happening, so I had no idea what was going on. And then we get all these other comments.
Yeah.
Thinking it was one.
So many comments. That's the thing, Anne. Literally, it started and I was like, hold on a minute, she's doing a bloody interview without me.
I know. I can remember the listener who commented and literally said they thought, well, good for them. They got an interview with Dojoon.
So, but apparently I sound like a guy with a very deep voice.
Okay, I got beef with this AI. What the fuck is stealing our deep dive phrase? That's our shit, man. If they would have come out saying hot takes, heads would have rolled.
Well, yeah, there is that.
If she would have said hot takes, I would have sued. That is my brand. I told you that in episode 2.
Oh, dear. Oh.
We were laughing because the fact that she sounded like me, and then Kelly said, if that guy had a British accent, we would have really died. If the AI...
Honestly, I was just waiting for it. The second voice kicked in and I was like, no. What are you doing?
Oh my God.
It was one of the weirdest situations ever. I mean, I was sat prepping stuff, reels and bits and pieces for the band, and this came on and I was like, I just got it playing in the background, and then I was like, I did a Scooby-Doo. It was like, what's going on? And then I messaged you and I was like,
how is Anne interviewing Dojoon? Which, listeners, by the way, Does that mean that Dojun has quote unquote heard my voice?
Oh God.
Mm.
He's also heard your sus content, if that's the case.
Oh my god! Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, let's not talk about you and the zombie apocalypse.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll even tell this funny story, listeners. So I told the story about my mom, I think, in a previous episode. So I'll remind listeners, and maybe if you haven't, listened to that episode, my mom, bless her heart, listens to every episode of this podcast. And she always tells me that she loves Kelly and I. She just thinks we're so funny, though she doesn't know anything about the Rose and doesn't really understand what we say, but she just enjoys listening and she listens to every episode. And when I was with her this weekend, she says to me, and I have to say this, I am on Kelly's side on something. And I'm like, what, mom? She's like, you put her in these crazy scenarios for your would you rather. She's
I
like,
love your
you
mom.
always come up with these weird scenarios. And then she says, I'm with Kelly on this. You need to stop putting her on all these crazy scenarios. And then she says, and the zombie apocalypse thing, she's like, what's up with you saying Sammy is replaceable? He was supposedly your favorite member. How dare you?
I think he may have been overtaken by a drummer.
Yeah, my mom's now defending you and Sammy.
Sorry, darling.
You got my mom defending both you and Sammy.
I like your mum. Thank you, Anne's mum.
Yeah. She's a spunky one. I like her. All right. Well, okay, let's go into our hot takes with this episode. There's a lot of fun, exciting news about the Rose. So we're going to kind of focus on that because there's a lot we want to talk through before we do our deep dive into the end of the Wolf album. So one, we're going to start with some exciting news with K-Rock Cast and Spectral. So Kelly, why don't you give our exciting update about K-Rock Cast?
Yeah, so this was a bit of a surprise yesterday when it pinged through. We have actually hit 2,500 streams on Spotify alone, which is really scary because I think only 60% of our audience comes through Spotify. Yeah, so thank you, people.
Yay!
Thank you for listening. That's so amazing of you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We're so excited for that. I feel like, we just started this podcast because we enjoyed talking about the music of the Rose and we hoped people would listen, but you obviously have been listening. So thank you to everyone who's been showing that support. So we're excited to continue to bring more new content and good, rich discussions, and we always promise the humor. So thank you so much. We also have some exciting news of Kelly's band Spectral. So we announced on our Into the Windfall episode the release of her band's debut single called Saints of Excess. It came out on May 21st. And excited to share their lyric video, which is on their YouTube channel. Over 16,000 views already as of today, which is incredible. Kelly, congrats to
It's
you and your
insane.
fellow bandmates.
Absolutely
That's
insane. I did
amazing.
not expect that for a lyric video.
Yes. Yes. So I'm excited for when your official music video gets released on your YouTube channel.
I think that's August, mid to the end of August, that comes out. Because it's like the
It's
end of
going to be
August through to
beautiful.
September, we have another run of releases. So thank you again, people, for, anybody out there that's taken a couple of minutes to sit and watch a lyric video.
Yeah, it's a great song. If you haven't given Saints of Excess a listen, definitely click on the link that's in the episode description. Watch the lyric video, listen to the song, give it some streams, promote it. Yeah, we're very proud of you
Thank
here on K-Rock
you.
Cast, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's move into we have a lot of updates from the Rose. Kelly and I were laughing because we were getting ready to record this and as of 2 days ago, I was getting a little worried of what the hell we would talk about in this hot take because there wasn't much happening, but now we've gotten a lot in the last 2 days. So, one exciting announcement is Pandora Radio shared this on May 22nd that The Rose is done a takeover, an exclusive takeover of a new channel on Pandora Radio. The channel is called Silk Wave. On this radio station, you can listen to songs by The Rose, but also similar sounding songs. They always kind of do that. So it's a new radio station. And then in between the songs, there are snippets from the guys, and they're great snippets. They're talking a little behind the scenes of their music, inspiration. They even talk about inspiration behind some of their previous songs as they introduce songs like She's in the Rain or Sorry. I think a downside of this is I have heard from folks outside the United States that Pandora isn't available. Like for you, Kelly, it's not available for you to even listen
No,
to.
no, it's not available in the UK. And the hilarious thing is, Saints of Excess is actually on Pandora, but I can't even listen to it on.
So weird.
How bad is
Yeah, so I
that?
don't really know why Pandora isn't available outside the US.
I don't. It's probably licensing agreements or something like that, I would have thought.
Check out our Instagram channel. I'm kind of taking some of the snippets and including them in different videos and reels and to promote it across our Instagram. So if you guys don't have Pandora Radio and can't stream and listen to it yourselves, we're at krock_cast. So that's exciting for the guys. Glad that they have that opportunity. And then I think the rest of this hot takes, we're going to dive into 3 live streams that we've gotten 3 days in a row, Kelly,
No.
from the members. We had Dojun,
How spoiled.
Hajun, and Jaehyun, who has now announced he's changed his name. So he is going by Taegyum. So we're going to refer to him as Taegyum or Jeff. Throughout the rest of this episode. I think this is significant, Kelly. I feel like this is a continued response to fan feedback. I think a lot of the things we talked about that fans were sharing concerns in the past like 6 to 8 months is a lack of engagement with fans from members of the Rose and communication.
Yeah.
I think you and I have talked about a lot of the reasons why, and I think we're seeing in this album, in some of the themes coming out of the music, some of the reasons why. But I think it's been significant and meaningful that they have taken this step to really reach out and have these live streams individually to connect with fans and talk with fans. What's kind of what was been your thoughts on these that have come to us over the last couple days?
Obviously, it's the run up to an album release. If you don't do anything, especially when you have an audience to give it to, you're shooting yourself in the foot anyway. So it's kind of expected. But it seems to have been quality time when they've done a live as well. They've all been at least half an hour. It's not been a case of hi, bye, which a lot will do. They'll come on and they'll go, "I've got something coming out." See, it's been a level of, as I've said, quality time that has been spent. So no, it's been really nice to see. Again, most of it on open platforms, so it's been on Instagram and things like that.
Up to now, we've had 3, and they've all been different,
Hmm.
but they've all been very personal to kind of how they like to engage with fans. So we think of Dojun's live. He came on May 24th. This was the infamous AI tool, but I feel like he likes to talk about the music, and so that was the focus of
Yes,
his. He
yes.
chose a very innovative way to be able to have a dialogue and conversation about the music, and I think that's how he likes to engage with fans. Where Hajun's was very conversational and informal, and then Taegyum's was like he likes to do, cozy, playing his favorite songs that he's been listening to in the background and just having conversation
Yeah.
and talking and answering questions. So I like you said, they're very organic, they're very genuine. They're not just coming on because it's like, "Oh shit, Transparent Art said we've got to do this cuz fans are pissed. So I guess we got to."
It's not a sales pitch either, which is quite nice.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Dojun's live. I think listeners, we are not going to dig into the commentary from the AI generated
No,
podcast because
no.
we will do our own commentary.
Most definitely.
But this is, let's talk a little more about this, because we were teasing at the beginning in our intro of how this threw us off. But apparently, so if I'm understanding what he did, he said he didn't necessarily say what AI tool he used, but that he used a tool. He inputted some information. So he gave them the song lyrics and he gave them kind of like a little synopsis, I think, that he
He would
wrote
have given
about
the
the
PR
songs. And then
write-up,
I
I
think he
think.
gave,
Yeah.
yeah, the press releases. Now, Kelly, you and I are surmising whether or not we think two things could have happened.
Yes.
One, the AI tool used that, and like AI tools do, scraped the internet and probably could have found us,
I
right?
would have
And
thought so.
based maybe the style off of us.
Yeah, I mean, we've got loads of metadata out there that ties us to being a
Right.
podcast about the Rose and everything else. There's so much
Right.
information that, I mean, literally, if you Google it, will literally come back with us straight away. So we would be the quick, easy target for an AI feature to find.
Or he uploaded an episode of ours and said, as part of his prompts, mimic this type. So that could
Mhm.
also have occurred if he
Exactly.
knows
So
we
that's,
exist. I still
yeah,
think we're flying under the radar and he still doesn't know we exist, but,
OVS.
you know. Either way, listeners, it was weird. It
Honestly,
was
it
weird
was.
for us, I think, to like
I mean, you
hear
described it
it.
as slightly creepy, and actually, it was slightly creepy because you were hearing an auto-generated voice come out with a sentence that you had said literally 3 weeks ago.
I did create a reel, listeners, on and put it out on our Instagram that showed literally things we have said in previous podcasts that the AI said.
Yeah.
When talking about Zoom and talking about home, and then that the lady's voice sounded like mine was
Oh
made it
god,
even
that
creepier,
freaked the
right?
hell
Like,
out. I mean, I literally had 3 or 4 people DM me going, Is Anne doing an interview with them? Where are you?" It's not, it's
where
not.
are you?
I thought it was her for a minute or two, but no, it's not, because the actual, almost her accent and her tone and her inclination is very similar
Yeah.
to yours, and then the only thing that made me go, "Actually, no, it's not," is the voice was deeper.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
only thing where I was a bit like, okay, no, it's
Right.
not." The actual sort of timbre was
Yeah.
slightly deeper. But yeah, other than that, and then I was literally, as I said to you, if a fucking British accent comes out of the other one now, I'm out the door.
That would have been really funny if the AI
Oh
would
god,
have mimicked us to the point
I would
of
have been on the floor. That's all I'm saying. I
I
would have
would
been on the
have
floor.
to. I would have to. But that they used language we'd said, they used our
Yeah,
phrase deep
I mean, it was
dive.
verbatim.
They mimicked our style.
Yeah, the style was mimicked. It was verbatim in some of the sentences, which I found a little bit to be to be. I mean, as you have rightly said, sort of mimicry is the highest form of flattery. It's just the fact that it was done by an
Yeah.
AI bot.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it as a compliment, you know.
Yeah, a weird
It's giving us
compliment.
some, maybe it gives people more visibility that we exist.
Well,
So,
yeah,
hey,
of course.
if people love the idea that there could be a podcast out there only digging deep into the Rose's music, we're here.
I know, it's funny that, isn't it?
We're
Yeah,
here
we're here.
with a lot more humor. Like,
God,
we're
yes.
much funnier than that AI.
Well, let's put it this way, AI generally doesn't have an explicit warning, at least we do.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, who else is going to, I bet that AI wouldn't have called out insomnia and said Sammy sounded like a whiny little bitch.
It also wouldn't have said anything about EDM beats and the fact that, yes, let's not go through that quote again.
Yeah, fuck that AI. Oh shit. Oh man, that was crazy though. But so we're not going to dig into that. I think a couple things we wanted to highlight is that when he was talking about Soon, Kelly, I'm
Yeah.
going to go back to something that you predicted in our Into the Catalyst episode where we were doing the hot takes and we were looking through all the track lists. And when you predicted that it's going to be an EP and not a full album, and you
Yeah.
were thinking 6 tracks, then we saw it was 7 tracks, and you were like, "Oh, I'm bummed because I really thought it was like 6
Yeah.
tracks." And you were like, "Well, maybe that first one's like an intro."
Yeah.
And he basically said that Zoom is light
It's an
on
intro.
lyrics,
Yeah.
repetitive melody
Yeah.
because it's an intro to the album.
Yeah.
So you're redeemed. You were right.
Woohoo! I is awesome.
I know. And I'm just like, this was how many weeks ago we said this too? Like, this is the thing. Like, we predict this shit so far before
Well,
they ever like validate us.
I have been asked if we are in fact time travelers. I did point out that that wasn't a DeLorean on the drive, and I do not have a crystal ball because I'm going to end up burnt at the stake. I'll be there with Joan of Arc at this rate.
I know. Or people think, I think that they either think you are a witch and a time traveler,
I
or
am.
the
It's true.
other weirdest, just as weird off the wall theory is people think we work for them and we're like
I
some
know.
mole that's like a leak that likes to drip out
Said mole, and all
information.
I've got going through my head is like moon. He's a moon. Completely lost on so many people. I just retain crap.
But like that's the other like off the wall theory people have, that we actually work for them and we're
Yeah,
like,
obviously, of course
leaking
we do. Yes.
information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course we do.
So that's kinda all we're gonna talk about, I think, with Dojun's live.
I think
I
so.
enjoyed it. I think he looked, I mean, bless his heart, he said he was up at 5 AM. You think that he probably hadn't slept.
Oh, I don't think he'd slept, to be perfectly honest. I think he'd pulled an all-nighter getting sort of things ready for triggering
Yeah,
and samples and various things like that. All the stuff that you
yeah.
do have to prep that takes time. Because you've got one of the things you do have to bear in mind is before you go out on tour, especially when you're doing a big production. I mean that they're not doing the production that they were doing when they were doing the arenas, but even so, you still do a production. So what you have to do is you have to one get your set list sorted. You have to get all the triggers and everything else sorted to go along with that set list. And then once you've done that, you then have to basically pass that over to your sound engineers and lighting engineers. And then they have to do all of their things off of that. So like lights are triggered by certain points in the actual tracks and everything else. It's a huge process. And Dojan will be very instrumental in setting all of that up.
Yeah, and we've talked about that he really gets into all of
Oh yeah.
that before. He did this live. Well, one, he had to prep for the live, so he had to put that time in to prepare for it. And then he's went right back to work. He
Yeah.
said he looked, I mean, he looked tired, but I think he looked good. It felt good. Maybe I'll say that. It felt good in my heart to see him.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
they'll all be knackered at the moment. They will all be absolutely
yeah.
shattered, and mainly,
Yeah.
I would have probably said mainly Dojon and Sammy are carrying a lot of the brunt of the work that's needed at the moment.
Yeah.
Because actually, sort of diverting a little bit. So if we go onto the last episode of photosynthesis, I think there was conversation in that
Mm,
that very definitely highlights that Sammy's looking after the business side of things, and
right.
that's where he is. So you've got Dojon dealing with the technical aspect of the music, the production, and everything else. And I think Sam sat
Mm.
very definitely in that sort of CEO managerial. He's dealing with the day to day process things. So yeah, they'll both be shattered.
I think he is too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he is too. Yeah. So Kelly, why don't you go into, let's talk about Hajun's live. Walk us through that one.
Yeah, so the following day, Hajim just turned up out of nowhere and went, "Ta-da, I'm here." And it was lovely because it was so casual and it was just lovely little conversation. And he was, obviously just sort of picking up with little comments and questions that were coming in from the Black Roses. He was discussing various things. And somebody had asked him if he'd eaten yet because of, the time. And he was like, no, I'm going to go and get something to eat. And it's going to be a salad and chicken. And the fact that he was bored of salad, but he was on a diet again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
June, we love you. You're
I know.
perfect
But
how you
apparently he
are.
wants to look good for the Black Roses. I mean, the fact the
He
guy looks out.
already does.
I know that. You know that. I mean, the amount of pressure that is on people to look a specific way. Um,
Yeah.
and so I kind of understand mentally where that comes from. But dear God, I mean, the guy doesn't need to worry. I mean, I understand working out. You need to be physically fit to tour. If you're not,
Oh, yes.
oh, you are. No, you need to
Yeah.
be you've gotta go down the gym, nearly every single day to make
Yeah.
sure that you are your muscles
Mhm.
are ready enough to actually deal with what you're doing. And him doing the actual role he does in the band as well, I mean, the sheer amount of energy that's required to be a drummer, um, is insane.
Yes.
Is absolutely insane, so
I realized you're right about that. I think I understood that more when I saw CN Blue live and I
yeah.
saw their drummer. The amount of energy a drummer has to put out during a live show?
It's
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of mad. It's like they're running a marathon. They have to carb load before they go on stage,
Yeah. I
especially
could
some of the
imagine that. So
yeah, especially some of the sort of like top notch sort of like the metal drummers who are playing like double bass pedals and everything
Mhm.
else and playing triplets and God knows what else. And they do because otherwise their blood sugar just drops. And I mean, I've seen drummers pass out because they've just not had anything
Yeah,
before.
oh,
So you really do need to be in tip top shape.
I could understand that. But yeah, I think back to what you said, like it kind of pulled on my heartstrings a little
I
bit because I
know.
felt like he was saying it not from the perspective of, I'm going to the gym every day and I'm eating healthy because I want to, be ready for tour and prepare. I felt like it was coming from an insecure place
It
of maybe not
yes.
liking how he looks. And I think he said that in previous content. We've heard him over the years.
Oh, he's
Think
referred
he's
to himself
fat.
as a bore and
Um,
all sorts, hasn't he? "I can't eat this because 'cause I'll end
I
up looking like a bore," and
know.
you're like, "Oh, come on, seriously?"
No,
Um,
because he's healthy, he's handsome, like
yeah,
yeah,
but
that was a shame.
but I think a lot of people assume that how you appear is very definitely something that women tend to sort of struggle with. Body
Mm,
dysmorphia is it's a very feminine sort
mhm,
of, complaint. It's not it's not at all.
mhm.
Guys are worse, about
Yeah,
it because there's a thing of, you've gotta be this, you've gotta be that, you've gotta be the other, but you've also gotta be this, and this. Oh, for God's sake,
yeah,
no, 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 just be yourself. As long as you are healthy enough to do the job that you need to do, who gives a damn?
yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great call out. You're right. I think, men struggle with body dysmorphia just as much as women do,
I
but
I
we may not
yeah.
think of it.
Yeah, I think there are more support systems in place for women as well, whereas with
Correct.
guys there isn't.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah.
with mental health
Well,
for guys. It's just not there. Whereas with women, thankfully, we are brought up to talk to each other, to be able to have deep
right.
conversations. Um, and I think that's why women
Yeah.
always have the ability to have a sisterhood and look after each other. And guys don't necessarily do that. I mean, I'm privy to this, obviously being in a band with 3 guys. So I frequently end up
Mhm.
as therapist. I love you boys.
Mhm.
I just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of end up in a therapist role, and it's kind of sad to think that guys don't have that support network that women have.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, Hajun, Here at K-Rockcast, we love you and support you. So,
Yes, we
you
do.
know,
You're fine, sweetheart.
we
Don't
like you
worry
the way
about
you
it.
are.
Exactly. He's
Yeah, we like
perfect
you the
just
way
the
you
way he
are.
is. Like everybody else is perfect just the way they
Yeah.
are. So
Yeah.
then we got on to him talking about his beautiful Bella, his gorgeous,
Oh, so
gorgeous Bella,
cute.
and the photographs that
So
he'd
cute.
shared. And she was wearing a piece of merch. So the guys have done a new scarf for this tour as well. So if you remember the black one that had got roses all over it, this one looks as though it is a neutral sort of beige cream color with stars on it. So it's another twist.
Mm.
Now, one of the things I said to you, I mean, I have way too many scarves, but I'm one of these people that like scarves. I like something I can wrap around my neck
Mhm.
93 times. I can't with this. I mean, I literally have to tighten my hair. It's just not big enough to
Mhm.
do anything
Yeah.
else with, which is a shame because actually it's probably a piece of merch that I would have if it was a longer garment
Mhm.
instead of just being like a kerchief type of thing. Um, and to
Yeah.
be, the fact that he completely and utterly fangirled over how gorgeous his Bella was, which I mean is without
So
doubt,
cute.
it's completely and utterly acceptable. She is adorable. She's so sweet.
She's such a beautiful
She
dog.
is. She's
She
very,
is
very,
so
very pretty
beautiful.
and very well behaved. And then he went and mentioned the
Yeah.
fact that he'd been on a doggy date with her to a doggy cafe,
So
which is
cute.
very, very cute. And also the fact that Bella, like many dogs, doesn't recognise the fact that she's in fact a dog. She is actually human, but just looks a little bit different to her dad and doesn't get on with other dogs.
Oh, I just love this. I love that he shared that and how, like, adorable and cute, and he just loves her to pieces.
Uh,
I know he's gonna miss her so much when he goes on
yeah, I'm
tour.
anybody who's got a dog will tell you that they are the apple of their eye and they adore them and they mean everything to them. So, yeah, there's a reason he fangirls over her because she's
So
lovely.
cute. I know, and I think like I said a few minutes ago, I just enjoyed his live, he was in his car. He just he was just there. It's just conversational, like we said. He's just answering questions, just kinda talking. I do wanna recognize you, Hajun. Your English has just increased in your proficiency so much.
I was so impressed.
Yeah, as a fellow language learner, I recognize how challenging that is and how much hard work you've obviously been putting in to be able to communicate in English to your international fans. So thank you, Hajun. And I just want to recognize that because that's hard. It's not natural for him to communicate his thoughts and ideas. And it's little things that you don't think about, I guess, in how you ask questions to someone who isn't a native speaker. Because I chuckled a little bit that, someone asked him a question, it's like, "I wanna eat Korean food, but I'm a picky eater. What would you recommend?" Like, that's a phrase as an English speaker, you know what picky means. He
Yes.
didn't know what that meant,
Yeah.
a and so, it's just things like that we have to remember sometimes that, maybe when we ask questions, of him or, Taegyum in particular, who their English proficiency isn't quite to the level of, like, Leo's, and obviously
Yeah.
Sammy is a native English speaker. Be thoughtful sometimes about what you're asking because they might not
Yeah.
know the phrasing or slang terms or, like, things like that.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
both native English speakers, but I mean, literally, it
Mhm.
ends there. I mean, there are so many terms and words that I use as a British English speaker that you, as an American, completely do not understand at all.
We have a whole lost in translation segment created because I have to, honestly say, like, you're the first person that I've known, to this level,
Yeah.
from Britain, and I had no clue the level of differences in our languages until our
I
friendship.
no, and I
Yeah.
mean, I would say for myself, I'm probably very middle ground English. I have got an accent. I'm from up north. I've got a bit of an accent, but I'm not to the point where some people are. So actually, it's one of those things like you literally drive down the road and it's a completely different dialect.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I can understand where some people coming to England and go, I learnt English at school, but I have no idea what the hell anybody's saying. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
completely and utterly get it. I really do. So for him to be able to speak with such proficiency these days is really impressive. Well done.
Yeah, it's so impressive. So kudos to you, Hajun. And then we had a lovely, cozy, chill live stream on Instagram from Taekyum. And so that's the big news that was announced by formerly Jaehyun, that he's changed his name and he's keeping Jeff as his English name, but he is now going by the Korean name Lee Taekyum. Um, and so Kelly, this was really fascinating that he shared
Yeah.
this. You know, he had talked about wanting to change his name in episode 2 of Photosynthesis when they were at the Saju reading. And think back to her Saju reading to him. It was all about him as this dormant volcano, right? His image was this
Mm,
dormant volcano. And he had talked about, wanting to change. She said he's someone that thinks a lot about people's expectations of him and kind of hasn't been living like as his true self.
yeah.
And so I'm so proud of him. What a brave step.
Yeah. Well done him for doing it. If it's something that's resonated with him and he's had this desire to change his name, it's a great thing to do. I know it's kind of baffled a lot of people. They don't seem to quite
Mhm.
understand. It's like, well, what's made you change it? Why have you had to do this? I don't find it a strange thing at all. I mean, I come from a family where multiple members of my family have changed their name. I have friends that
Mhm.
go by completely different names to what their birth name is. At the end of nobody calls me by my proper name. I mean, my proper name's Kellyanne. Nobody refers to me as Kellyanne at all. I get Kel and Casey. That's what people call me. Um, and then obviously on stage I use Clark Kelly. So it's yeah, I mean it's not unusual to me. It's just a development of stealth. And I tend to find it's not necessarily you getting used to it, it's actually getting other people used to the change, especially if they've known you for a very long time. Um,
Yeah.
but people change, people evolve, people have to understand this. You are not a stagnant thing of when you are born and you are gifted a name. In the same way that people are born a specific way, and they evolve and change and may want to reorientate themselves and become a completely different identity. It's no different. It's just holding on to what you
Mhm.
are in your heart, what you feel as though you should be, and good on him. Honestly, it's the biggest step that is involved with changing your name is all the paperwork. And whoever the poor
Oh,
sod is who's
yeah.
now gonna have to update all the biographies for the roast and everything else. This is the reason he'd not
Yeah.
told the guys before he told us. This is all I'm saying. It's all to do with paperwork.
I know. I know. But
Um,
I think, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of work involved for him, right, to get
yeah.
all of
Yeah,
that
yeah, there will
updated
be,
as
yeah.
someone more in the public eye, and you could kinda even see, like, in the live, like, if people came on late or they hadn't really understood what he was saying, he had to kinda keep repeating himself, but
Yeah, which
it's yeah,
yeah.
it's a big step.
Mm,
It's for like you said, it's really more for other people in his life to get used to it.
yeah, it's not him, it's
Yeah,
them.
it's
Um,
it's
I
everybody else, and so we support him.
one of the things I also sort of mentioned to you before we started recording as well. So I know with my friends, they were named by their grandparents. So that is very much a Kowloon Bay area thing, and also a Vietnam thing as well. That grandparents will name the grandchildren. It's the honor of naming them in the native tongue. Neither of my friends use their actual names at all. They say their passport name is what their English name is, and that's what they use. I don't know if it's a similar thing in Korea. Good on him for changing it and making that decision to do it. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable with something
Yeah.
about yourself, you change it.
I just think, yeah, the bravery and what a big step for him. So if that Saju reading is accurate and he's someone that has always put a lot of stock in what other people think and what societal expectations are, to change your name at this point in his life to something he has selected,
Mm,
that's huge.
it
That's
is
a
big,
really big step.
but people
Yeah, it's a
people
big
make
step, and
people make big decisions all the time about who they are, what they are, changes in life, changes in courses, everything about themselves.
yeah. So, we will support you, Tay. He said, we could call him Tay, we could call him Jeff, we can call him Taegyum, whichever of the 3. And some people were shipping Tafe, if you wanna
Yeah,
call him that. I don't know. I'll go with Tay because I was always
I'll
saying
go with
Jay,
Tay,
so I feel
to
like
be
Tay
honest.
is
Yeah,
just
let's go with Tay.
Tay's good for me.
It is me as well. Tay's absolutely fine.
Yeah, today's absolutely fine for me. So that was big, but then some other little things I think he shared. He said that his favorite song on World is Nevermind. I think we're excited to dig into this song. I
Yeah,
feel like, some of the themes I think of Nevermind, to me, maybe it's resonates with him based on what's happening with him personally. And
possibly.
so yeah, I can't wait to just kind of dig into that
I
song.
think I think sonically as well, it probably sits slightly better with him.
Yeah, that's the Oasis sounding one. And then I love that he talked a little more about this writing session in Busan. We covered
Yes.
that in a hot takes of a previous episode, but he said they were there for 7 days and all they did was write,
Mm.
record, eat, sleep, repeat. Wow, what an intense session that must have been.
Oh god, definitely. And I mean, I said to you, this album has been done in a rush. This one has
I
been
mean,
literally pushed out of nowhere.
to say, like, they came away with 7, probably 7 songs in 7 days is, like, basically a song a day
Yeah.
on
And it would,
average.
yeah, on average, and it would have been the case as well that, I mean, you never go into a room cold. There's always something in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Because to say you go into a room cold is a lie. There's always just a glimmer of something, or it'll spark something you'd already thought about when you hear somebody else's idea, and it's sort of like watching neurons fire. One fires another, and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, I do find it interesting that they literally just went away, locked themselves away in Busan for this 7 days, and then created this. So yeah, that's
I mean,
interesting.
you and I surmised that I bet a lot of the seeds of the themes, at least, of these songs I think were planted when Sammy and Leo were out on his solo tour. I think there were
Yes.
probably a lot of good, deep conversations. I mean, that was when all the crazy stuff in the United States was going down,
Yeah.
the election was happening, crazy shit in South Korea was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
You had the martial law enacted in that country.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to have driven a lot of this direction, like, we said that in, I
Yeah.
think, the Spoiler King,
Yeah.
episode. So,
There's
I'm sure
so
a lot of good conversations were going on and maybe even some writing of melodies by Hajun and Tae that led up to kind of that writing session.
I
And
mean,
then he kinda teased that okay, I've only watched it once. Kelly and I have each only watched it once, so I hope we're getting correct how he worded this phrase, but he was giving a spoiler about the concert, and we think he said the words, "He may be playing guitar at the concert,"
yes.
which we think that means he may be playing acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
not bass guitar, which
Acoustic
we
guitar.
said
A
when
nice
they did
little
the
6
live
string.
stream Yeah, that they're probably gonna do an acoustic set in the middle of their show somehow,
I
so
think so. I think so because we've had lots of little hints about acoustic equipment all the way through this.
Mhm.
If you've been paying attention,
Mhm.
folks, you'll know what we mean. Um, so yeah,
Yes.
that will be interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll see if we can come back and say we were right, which we probably will. Not
Love
that I'm
that. I
bragging
love
or
the
anything.
cockiness, which we probably will.
I'm still gonna be like, "Fuck you, AI, we get shit right
Well, yeah,
most of the time."
yeah,
And then finally, this is again, we're gonna see if we come out and are fucking right about this one, Kelly, but I loved the different songs that Tay was playing in the background, right? And that's what I like about his lives. They're always so
yes.
cozy and fun. It's just like you're hanging out with him in his house, which he showed us his house. His house
Oh,
is, like,
yeah.
beautiful, by the way.
Yes, it looks nice and cozy.
Yeah, it's beautifully decorated. And so he's playing different songs. We had, like, We the Kings, we had a lot of Green Day. To me, a lot of these songs were very, like, punk pop rock kinda
Yes,
sounding, Kelly.
yes, yes. They made Kelly very happy. There's a little bit of My Chem in
They
there
made
as
me very happy
well.
too.
Yeah, and he was talking about
Yeah,
McFly.
which
McFly are a bit of a weird one. They're borderline, but we'll let him have them.
mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
so I think we both predict, listeners, that, the album that probably did begin with an R. I'm still saying I think it was Rise, but anyway, that was the title of it. But anyway, that album will still see the light of day sometime. We think it will.
yes,
We
I
don't know
think he will.
when.
I think it's been shelved. It's not
We
been
think it
scrapped, and
will.
I've said that before, and I will say it again. It's not
And
been
buy it,
scrapped.
yeah, and I think it's this sound. I think we're gonna get future The Rose music, I think is gonna be more like this sound,
Yeah, I
which we
think
said
so.
before too, actually. We said that in
Yeah,
a previous episode.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's their comfort
so we'll
area
see.
as well. And also, silly as it sounds, it goes back to the whole concept of rebranding because all of those bands are
Yes,
gender neutral bands. That sounds a bit of a weird way of putting it, but
yes,
it's very much a
mhm.
split audience, instead of being estrogen
Yes,
heavy.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Alright, so why don't you wrap us the last thing we wanna share in terms of news of the Rose today was this awesome close-up image of Sammy's
Yeah.
guitar. Why don't you walk us through that, Kelly?
Yeah, so I did complain that on a previous podcast that we couldn't see what was written on the guitar. So Sammy, sweetheart, thank you very, very much for posting a photograph of it on the 25th. And it was nice and clear and we could actually see what was written on it. So thank you, darling. So the actual guitar has a selection of song lyrics on it. So there were things that we'd picked out beforehand. So the wolf, the 4444 logo, obviously the larger writing of Nevermind. But actually, with the close up, we get a breakdown of some of the lyrics that are on there. And it kind of feels very much that he's picked lyrics that resonate closely with him. It's really lovely to see. So we've got on the actual pickboard itself where the children are running and not running away from falling stars. At the moment, that is so timely, which is anything you are watching
Wow.
on the news at the moment is heartbreaking.
Wow.
And I literally sat and cried yesterday morning after seeing one of the news reports that was coming out of the Middle East and, well, Europe, Middle East. And yeah, and this is what's happening.
That is a powerful line.
It's a very powerful line. It's a
Yeah.
very beautifully poetic way of describing something completely and utterly heinous.
Yes, you're right. You're right, and leave it to oh god, here I go again. Okay, I'll hold the moaning for when we actually go into this album review, but,
I'll let
leave
you
it to
wax
Kim
lyrical. Go
Woosung.
on.
His lyricism is just, like, it's just, like, unmatched. I'm sorry, it is.
It's not bad. It's okay. It's all right.
It's alright.
It's all right.
Mm.
Um,
I don't even have words sometimes to, like, describe All right.
There you
I'll
go,
hold
moaning
it for the
again.
album review.
Moaning again.
Stop it.
I don't know
Ah,
what to do with you, woman. I don't know what to do. Anywho,
I don't
let's
know
carry on.
either.
So
Ah!
get back in your box. So we have Ticket to the Sky as well. And then we get, but I'm holding on pieces of my soul to the things that I love, to the years that I love.
Nebula.
And it's a lovely little hark back, I think, to this whole sort of root of who we are and existence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I noticed too, because I didn't see this in the original photos, that around that lyric from Nebula, he has "heal" written.
he does,
And we said that in previous
he has it
episodes.
written in between the actual bottom of the fretboard and the humbucker. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we
it's
called that
interesting.
out in previous episodes that they've always kind of leaned back into that sound and that era of heel. And he when he introduced this in the live stream he held on March 27th, he said that this album is more like Heal than it is like Duel, to prepare
Yeah,
us and kind of manage
but
our
this is
expectations. Yeah.
but this is one of the things that I've discussed with you as well previously. We know that there are hints about burnout and reassessing who you are and where you are in the world and where the world
Mm.
is. And it's about healing. It's about external healing and internal
Mhm.
healing. So for him to use the term
Yeah.
heal again isn't wrong. I mean, this is a second dose of medicine.
Yes. I think I think it is, and I think, like, you said this in a previous episode, but that they needed to take the step back before they keep moving forward,
Yeah.
to the next level they're going to take, and I think you're right, like, this pause, this moment is the healing moment they needed internally and based on what's happening in the world externally before
Mm.
this next album will come out and, probably be even bigger than Duel maybe or take them to
Yes.
that next
Yeah,
level,
I
but
think so.
yeah.
I think it'll come out and it'll have a much bigger
Mhm.
voice. And that's the thing. I always remember my grandma saying to me once that somebody who speaks quietly and caringly with a delicate voice is often heard over somebody who shouts. So actually
Mm.
making personal, political, empathic terms in a quiet voice is
Mhm.
sometimes a lot more effective than screaming and raging. It's almost a little bit like a quiet protest, and I think that's a beautiful idea. I really do think
I
that's a
think that's a
gorgeous idea.
beautiful yeah.
I
I think
really
it's a
do.
beautiful idea. I mean, we knew that they had a real message to say, and we talked about when we heard
Mm,
the snippets,
yeah,
we talked about that extensively in the Spoiler King episode.
yeah.
Alright, keep going with the
So then
lyrics,
we have
Kelly.
slowly, I'm dying, it's okay. However, this is scratched out.
Here I go with the other Kim Woosung, you're killing me with this. This is totally connected to slowly being scratched out on the hat.
Yes.
Okay, somebody's gotta ask this man about what this means. How has nobody asked any of the guys yet what these images mean on the hat? Why assume in the red X on the merch shirt? Does nobody else care? Is nobody else interested or curious? What is happening?
No, because they're
Why
all
am I the
AI,
only
Anne.
obsessed one?
They're all AI. They don't need to know. They're all plugged into the matrix. You've got to bear in mind we took the other pill. This is what's
Is that what
happened.
it is, Kelly? We've
That's it.
taken the blue
We
pill.
took the blue pill.
I'm telling
We are
you.
no longer plugged into the
Listeners,
matrix.
if I can try to get a question in front of that man, I am just like dying to understand. And nobody's like even paid any mind to it. It's crazy.
No, I mean, to me, obviously, we're still trying to need to know what the definition of Zoom is, which one
Yeah,
it
they haven't
is,
told us.
because Dojon didn't allude to that at all. And the fact that it's crossed out, and I
No.
mean, is that the fact of actually I've come through my hermit mode? Because to be perfectly honest, I mean, we're on about the songs being like, about burnout and things like that. It's about somebody literally going into hermit mode. This is what this is. This is, you know, I'm dying. Don't call me. Leave me alone. I'm going to rot in my
Yeah,
own space. I feel sorry for myself until I've
remember
sussed
I
out my life.
I was like, "This song is about death." Like, it could
Mm.
be literal death, a figurative death,
I think it's a
you
metaphorical.
know.
I think it's a metaphorical look at self, death, and rebirth. If we want to get,
Yeah.
if we want to get that down that route, I think that's what it is. To be honest. So then we
I can't
have.
wait to dig into that.
And these the next sort of little rhyming couplet that I absolutely love because I have a little sign in my bedroom that is very much like this. And so this just makes me titter every time I see it. And it's what's left if you are right and what's right if you are left behind. I really like that. I think that's just such a gorgeous little
Mhm.
line. I mean the little sign I have in my
Yeah.
bedroom is let me try and remember what it is. If nothing goes right, go left. And
Yeah.
I just love
Yeah.
that. I just love that ideal. And I kind that I hate to say it's kind of my sort of analogy on life. If it's not going that way, go that way. Just,
Yeah.
there's always a different way out of these things. Then we have honestly, never mind.
Mm.
Mm, yeah. And then we have a quote from Imagine from the absolute genius that is John Lennon. And we have Imagine all the people living life in peace, which is still to this day one of the strongest terms ever used and really should resonate more with people than it does.
Yeah, I think, when we were talking about hearing the songs and the Spoiler King, and we were surmising what albums might have been the anchor albums that were inspiration, it seems like this was an anchor song,
Yeah,
of
I think it
inspiration for
was.
them, of the
Yeah,
kind of message.
I think I've
Yeah.
got sort of like 5 or 6 anchor albums that were sort of taken on board.
Mhm. Yeah, it feels like "Oh" is a type of song like this, it feels like. They were trying to kind of create "Oh" as a similar kind of song.
Yes, I think so. And there's also the fact Dojan said as well that O actually builds. O's got that movement, it becomes an anthem, which I'm kind of glad about because
Mhm.
they need an anthem on, even if it's a quiet anthem, you need an anthem on an album. You need a sing along.
But remember we said, like, we were surmising they're gonna end the concert with that? I think they're gonna play the painted guitars and painted instruments, and you were like, "Well, it needs more, like, drive or, like,
Yeah.
build,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Which is
maybe it
obviously, as I've
will.
said to you as well,
Mhm.
which is the reason that I have reserved my judgment about the actual songs until I've heard them in their
Yeah.
entirety. Because at the
Mhm.
moment, everything fits within a nicely packaged niche, and sometimes it needs to sort
Mhm.
of escape out of that and become something else. Then we have
Mhm.
Tomorrow Will Be Okay, Don't Worry Too Much, which is a lovely idea, and hopefully tomorrow
Mhm.
will be okay. And then obviously I forgot the ending line of that. We just need to dance to the music.
Yeah, I love that he showed us this image very clear so we can see all of the lyrics. We knew they were going to be lyrics that resonated with him, but we couldn't like read them, but now we got a chance to
Yeah.
do that. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. All right, let's go in, Kelly, to our deep dive this week. So, listeners, as we've said, we're digging into part 2 of Woosung's solo EP Wolf. So, we're going to go into the final 2 tracks. Today, we're going to talk about Face and the pre release track Lonely. So, Face was the title track of the EP. It had a music video, which we said, Kelly, we love this music video,
Yeah.
don't we?
I
It's a
love that
good
one. It's
one.
great.
Yeah, excited to talk about that. So, Woosung in the After School Club interview, which again, listeners, we'll have that interview linked in our episode notes. It's a great interview. He talks about writing the melody to Face. I thought this was so interesting, Kelly. He said that he wrote this melody actually 2 years prior to its release. So, this would have even been prior to when he debuted with The Rose. And he said the main message of this song was really that everyone is unique and beautiful in their own way.
Before I wrote the melody 2 years ago, and when I was putting the lyrics onto it, I wanted to have like the message, like the biggest message in my album. I wanted to have a message where everybody has the right to get respected by what kind of faces they like. So when I say I like your face, it doesn't need to be some face that I especially think.
like,
Yeah. It could be something that's, that you like, or he likes, she likes, whatever. So that's the biggest message of Face.
So I feel like for this melody, it must have just been like something that just kind of stuck in his head, but he didn't really know what to do with it. What do you kind of make of him saying that?
I'm not surprised because it is one of those grooves that you do get stuck in your head and you wake up and it's this horrible earworm and it's like it won't go away. And
Yeah.
I can imagine him sort of like waking up with it going, oh God, I've got to get this down because my brain is going to explode. Because that frequently does happen when you're writing. Or you'll have this great idea in your head and you'll be off doing your shopping or something and you're just like trying desperately to remember it and you're like, stay in my head, stay in my head. And when you get back, it's sort of evolved into something else. So yeah, it's this is a great track. I love this track, and I will freely admit, I think this is when I kind of fell in love with his solo work.
Yeah, this was a big hit for him. I agree with you. We're going to dig into the instrumentation here in a minute, but that like dum dum dum, you're right. It's so catchy and it's such an earworm. And listeners, he included the instrumental of Face on the album. And I know we say this a lot, as a fan, I never listened to instrumental versions before doing this podcast, but when I went and listened to the instrumental of Face, oh, I loved the track like even more because now you really can hear all of the great. We're going to get into the bass line, Kelly. I know you love a good, sexy, groovy bass line.
Well, I mean, there is a term used for it, but I'm not going to use it in polite company. But yeah, I'm a sucker for a bass line. That's not the term. There's definitely another term, but I'll say that off air.
You're so funny. All right, so this one was composed by Kim Woosung, lyrics by Kim Woosung. The arrangement was Kim Woosung along with Lee Kyu-ho. Guitar is Lee Kyu-ho, bass Choi Ho-jin. Recording engineer was Brian Yu and Kang Young-nu at Yu Production Studio A. Mixing engineer Go Hyung-jung at Coco Studio, and mastering done at 821 Sound. So, Kelly, why don't you start taking us through the melody of this song?
Weirdly enough, though, it's quite a simple song to say that we all love it so much. I mean, it is literally a big fat slice of pop. It's the only way of describing it. It is a fantastic pop song, and it literally does what's said on the tin. So it starts in F sharp and it is 113 beats per minute. So we're in dance territory. It's up there. That's why it's got that sort of
Yeah.
nice bounce to it, and it makes you want to dance because we're in that BPM territory. It starts with, I mean, the first time I heard this, and I'm still not 100% sure, the very first sort of opening notes and refrains could sound like they were coming from a bass. And if that's the case, it's a dual bass pretty much all the way through this. But I actually think it's a palm muted guitar, but it's just so well processed. That's the lovely thing about this entire track. The actual instrumentation from the guitar and the bass is so warm. It's got such a beautiful, warm tone. And that's actually what makes it for a track for me because the tone hits perfectly. It's not a
Yeah.
sharp thing at all. It's just this warmth. So you've got this muted guitar that comes in with a very staccato sort of picked arrangement of notes, very simple, and you just get that nice little groove. And then
Yeah.
it's backed up with this beautiful, sensual, organic, slightly orgasmic bass sound. I'm sorry, I'm going overboard.
I
Um,
know.
but it's beautiful. This bass is just chunky as hell, and you just want to hug it. And it's gorgeous, and it kicks in, and it just builds and transports you into this sort of really luscious soundscape. You then get this sort of 4/4 beat fall into it, and it's very simple. I mean, I was sat earlier on counting it. I'm just thinking I was half expecting it to sort of like be like odd timing or something. I was like, no, it's 4/4. They're sticking completely to the rule books here. It's on an electric drum kit. Now, the reason you can tell it's an electric drum kit, if you're accustomed to hearing an acoustic drum kit, it has a sort of, like I've just been talking about with the guitar and the bass, it has this warmth. and it's kind of missing. It's almost sort of steely in the sound. You can kind of hear the mesh in it, and that's very typical for processed and programmed drums of sort of like 5-6 years ago. Um, and it's quite a specific sound, so you know that that's what the drum is. It has this sort of really nice sort of build that comes into the pre-chorus, which is fantastic because you know how I frequently talk about you have to have like pull and push. And the other thing that you have to have with songs is
Yeah.
you also have to have this roller coaster. So you've got this sort of guitar and bass that's sort of like, you know, pulling you up the actual roller coaster. And then the drums kick in, and then that's your free fall into the chorus. And you get this lovely build. Because actually, I mean, when you get into the chorus, it strips away again. It's an unbelievably basic chorus because normally what you would do is you'd fatten out your chorus, but what happens is the pre-chorus is the meat. It's the meat and two veg of the entire song. So you go from that, and then you just get this really lovely just juxtaposition, and it flows between the two, and it keeps going. And then in a little bit, you get some piano kick in, and this beautiful guitar that's got this really lovely echo, delay, and chorus on it. I'm not 100% sure what the setup is, but the delay and the like chorus effect on it is really nice. But it helps because it's this warm sound, and it's sort of it can. You know how we've spoken before about different types of guitars have different sounds because of the actual physical wood that they're made of. It kind of reminds me of sort of like a Gibson. It's got that sort of
Mm.
warmth that you get with like a full body wooden guitar. Um, there's like a little bit of tremolo and that in there as well, but it's a really nice little guitar solo that just sort of wisps and pulls you in, and it sort of accelerates you towards the end of the actual song. Um, and then of course you've got things in there that are apparently you know, in every single track, and you get
Mhm.
the mysterious visitor at around 2:52. Do you want to say what that is, Anne? Because I know you were very excited when you heard it earlier on.
Yeah. I know, and listeners, this is where you gotta dig into the instrumental because you won't hear it, I think, unless you listen to the instrumental version, but as Kelly said, just a reminder, we mentioned this, I think, in part 1 of Into the Wolf. Sammy admitted that he's inserted a wolf howl in every track, and so we've heard it at 2 minutes, 52 seconds. He really kinda used, I think, some of the synths maybe, like, in the background to kind of
Yeah,
mimic that
yeah.
wolf howl. I
Yeah, so
loved that.
there is a physical wolf howl in it, and then you've got the synths underneath, which almost copy the frequency of the wolf howl, and then over the top of it, you've got the piano that actually picks the top two notes of the wolf howl, and that acts as the crescendo to pull you into the end of the song, which is a lovely
Yeah.
idea. I really, really like that. But yeah, I love this song, and it's primarily because I love the bass.
I know. I love what you said, like, starting with this picked guitar, I think as you mentioned, we were both thinking, like, "Is it a bass? Is it a palm muted guitar?" I like the layers of percussion that come in, the snaps, which you were telling me you thought those clicks, those snaps were
Oh,
actually his fingers
oh no,
maybe,
they are
not like a synth.
they will have been proper, and
Yeah.
they will have been recorded.
I love that.
Because just like as I said to you, weirdly enough, you can kind of hear the skin on it. They sound quite a snap if you
Mm.
do it off of a program. So if you do it off of any of the plugins that you can actually use, it kind of sounds. It doesn't have the fat behind it. That sounds so bad,
I
but
know
it
what you
doesn't.
mean,
It doesn't.
though.
It sounds
Yeah.
kind of metallic or slightly woody, whereas these quite warm, and it physically sounds like proper fingers snapping. So what you would do in that, so you'd literally, like I've just done up to the microphone, then you'd click your fingers a couple of times. You'd take the best clips, you would drag them to whatever note it is you need, and then you would literally copy and paste it for the rest of the track, and
Yeah.
that's all you do. But yeah, that will be, I think it is genuinely a proper finger snap on that, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I think I can see what you're saying. I feel like I agree with you. It probably is. And then I like that you said the beats per minute's 113, so taking us into dance territory
Yeah.
because I wrote in my notes that I felt like this had kind of an EDM, feel to it in terms of it's definitely a dance track. You wanna get up and dance to it. It's very
Yeah.
groovy.
I mean,
I
you'd
also
be
felt like he was mimicking an EDM. There's this build up to then drop. He does that, like, several times throughout
yeah,
the
and I
the
mean,
song as well.
that's the sign of a good track. Just any track will do that. I mean, it doesn't matter what type of music you listen to. Even classical music does that. So if you listen to something like, The Lark Ascending, beautiful, beautiful piece of classical music, but even that has actual drops in it. So you get to about, I think, about 333, and there's this beautiful sort of crescendo drop in that. So it's not a new trick. It's not a dance trick. It's been done for centuries, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, and it's just shy of being like house beat wise. I think
Yeah.
we're literally like two beats out, but yeah, it's top end pop music. That's why you want to move to it.
Yeah. I like to build around 3 minutes that kind of to me is the climax of the song and then pushing you kind of through the end. I mean, this is where he does his when he performs a song, he does the now infamous kick, which I love. I love that kick that he does. But yeah, I love this song. I also feel like we're gonna get into the lyrics and the meaning of the song, but I feel like this building up to me is mimicking the sexual tension of this song. Is this kind of like build, build, build to maybe some ultimate release. So I
Yeah.
also feel like that's kind of
Um,
mimicking what he's talking about in the song.
is yes, I think it's sort of technically referred to as the popping of the cork.
Yeah. The champagne shower.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the lyrics of the song then. What's your breakdown what your interpretation of the lyrics are?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't have been called Wolf, should it? I mean, this entire EP should have been called Hound Dog.
He is so, like, sexually, repressed in this song,
I'm
like or
so
this whole
glad you said
album,
I'm so
sorry.
glad you said repressed.
Yeah, like, dude, like, I hope he got laid. Like,
Oh, for
I
God's
I
sake,
I
yeah.
feel like he just needed to get laid throughout this entire album.
I mean, literally, the thought that went through my head was just go and knock one out.
Like, Woosung, you just need to get laid, buddy, like, oh my god. A lot of sexual frustration throughout this whole album.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some really lovely lines in this, and it could be on a surface level taken to be quite a sweet thing. You know, it's like
On a surface
dan
level, which
yeah,
we know that about Sammy.
yeah, I mean, dancing and, and sort of making eye contact and a trembling breath and all those lovely things. And then it just descends.
Yeah, that's kinda what he does. You
Some
gotta
rather smutty lines in there, to be perfectly honest. And I mean, I don't know whether or not some of these lines have the same connotations in America that they do in the UK, but champagne showers means something very different over here.
Yeah, I think here too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take me to space? Like, I feel like when he says that line, I feel like that's the, like or like he's having an
Oh yeah,
orgasm,
no,
like,
no,
to me.
that is reference to climax, yeah, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I
yeah,
mean
this song is
I mean,
pretty
come on.
sexual.
Yeah, I mean, bless him. I mean, he's tried to cover it up. I mean, it's not like, I mean, one of my favourite bands is Nine Inch Nails. They don't cover up the lines, they just say it exactly as it is. So I'm not 100% sure what's worse, us having to sit here and dissect the lyrics and go, this is a little smutty, or sat reading a lyric going, this is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
will
I'm
refer,
always down for innuendo.
I will refer our listeners to the song Closer, just if you listen to it, make sure you've got headphones on.
Yeah, I'm always down for innuendo though.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely talking there's definitely talking throughout the song about his sexual attraction to this girl, her beauty. Um, I think what's kind of interesting is this is a very heavy mix of both English and Korean lyrics. And I just always find it fascinating as a bilingual individual, when he chooses to write in one language over another.
What
And
words
I
do you
I
pick?
think it's yeah, like, what words do you pick? And I just think in so many of these lines, it's not even like one line of Korean and then another line of English. Like,
No,
he
it's like
literally has lines that
he
are a mixture of the
he picks
2.
he picks words in a way, and it's just like, actually, do you know what?
Yeah.
And it might be, I mean, it might literally just be from a sort of musical and singing phrasing point. So it might be the fact that because Korean sort of hits, it's more staccato, it's more, for want of a
Mm.
better sort of sound, it has got that very regimented thing about it. Whereas the English language is more cursive and it flows easier. So what you will notice with this is the bits where he does go into Korean tend to be the bits that are more rhythmical. So it's almost like
Mm.
when you listen to a certain song, and if you've got like a singer and a rapper, for example, it's kind of that thing. So like the rapper would take the more rhythmical section of it.
Mm.
So you'll find actually that some of the Korean bits actually sit with like the bass line when it does that nice little, where it's not just going dum dum, and it does the little run. So they fit into that. So it might just be the fact that he's just been really clever with this and chosen that path. And as I said, because the English language, it does have that sort of ability to sort of flow and curve more. I mean, when you do singing lessons, I mean, one of the things that you are forced to do is do A-E-I-O-U, which sounds ridiculous,
Mhm.
but that's how you sing it. And you can just tell by there that it's got this own free will to go da 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 da. And Korean doesn't really allow you to do that. There are certain sort of phrases and certain sounds and sort of pronunciations that allow that that you get with the English language, but not so much. It's a little bit more jab. So I kind of understand it, but I mean, it would. I'd quite like to understand how he gets those mixes, but that's me just sort of thinking why he might get those
Yeah.
mixes and do it that way.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. I think that makes sense. I remember he and Leo talking in an interview during the Heel era with Zach Sang, and they were kind of asking a little bit about, because that album Heel was a good mixture of
Mm,
Korean and English. Like, how do you choose? And he said at that time, it's not really a choice. They just kind of pick whatever feels right. But when they kind of sing those melodies in their head, they're always singing it in English for that very same, like, English gibberish for that same reason. So,
yeah.
yeah, I could kinda see that.
Well, I mean,
Let's go through some of these lyrics that are particularly maybe a little sexual,
mm,
and kinda talk
don't
through
say
I
it like that.
a little creepy.
You know,
I like
honestly,
the
I
line.
expect it to, it's just like on your palms and rub your palms on your knees.
Wearing high heels hidden in your body line. Your fancy kissing skills, babe. Come on, girl. Won't you come with me? Girl, you and I dance. Let's make eye contact a little closer. With your trembling breath, you make me gulp. And then he says, taste like ice cream, sticky feeling melting away. Don't rush, no need to hurry. We still have many things to do. I like that then towards the end of the song, he changes that to say, we need to rush, we need to hurry. We still have many things to do. So I kind of like that, like, again, this that we talked about, that the melody itself, like the instrumentation's building you, building you to this release. Like, I
Yeah,
think this whole song to me is this sexual tension with this
yeah.
girl that he's super attracted to. And then at the finally at the end, he's just like, okay, we got to get out of here. I always like in his writing, his use of metaphors and similes. I think he just creates imagery really well. Um, and I think I'll talk about that probably more in Lonely, but I don't know.
I,
I just he talks about tasting like ice cream and her red cherry lips, and I don't know. I just always like the way he uses metaphor and simile.
yeah, well, you say metaphor and simile, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, it could just be smut.
Well, I
Think,
mean, you know,
no, but think about alternative slang terminology for certain things. Um, if we
I don't know that I mean,
if we are on that slippery slope, and we both agree that this is a very sexually charged song, these thank God we've got an explicit warning on our podcast. This is all I'm saying. That
here we go.
there are certain. I'm not that bad. I have a filthy mind. I will point that out there. You've got to bear in mind, I've spent most of my life on tour with guys. I've heard it all. Um, there are certain lines in here that can be read, as I've said, very much on a surface level, and then very much on a different level entirely. And you're just thinking, you know, if you actually said this to a female, she'd possibly slap you.
Yeah, I don't think that Sammy's necessarily like Mr. Debonair.
No,
Yeah.
no, I really, really,
Well,
really don't think he is either. But
he's a
there is that sort of, I mean, silly as it sounds, that sticky feeling melting away. I mean, you do get clammy and sticky and a bit when you're around somebody that you like. So, I mean, to take it on that nice little surface level again. So that could be the nice surface level of it. I mean, obviously, I mean, we've got champagne showers and oh dear God, and things like that. I
yeah.
mean,
Thank
candy on deck. Dear God,
Mhm,
that line, candy on deck. I mean, it's literally harks back to
mhm.
like a 90s cat call.
Yeah. Well, I think too what's so interesting, I think we talked about this in part 1 of Into the Wolf, and this is what's been fun about digging into his old discography. I can see the maturity in him, right? Like, these
Yeah,
songs, they come from a boy to me,
yeah,
like, he's
they come from
now
a
a
young,
man,
yeah, they come from
and I
a
think
young man, definitely, yeah.
yeah, I think they come from a place of, like, a a young, male who's asserting his sexuality and
Yeah,
figuring out his sexuality and all of that. So it's just been interesting to see the evolution of him as a songwriter and his voice.
yes,
Um,
definitely. I agree with that.
yeah.
And I think the fact that, but it's a slice of pop. You take on board the mass majority of tracks that are in the top 40. I'd say a good 60% of them about sex anyway.
Oh,
The rest,
sure.
yeah. And I mean, they're not even about love, they're about sex. It's as simple as that. And some of them are just vulgar. Um, so
Mhm.
at least there's sort of like a little bit of mysticism in some of the cheesiness. um,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Give me good sexual innuendo. I mean,
oh,
that's always
I'm British for crying out loud. We live on innuendos. So I mean,
yeah.
it just always makes me titter anyway. Um, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a jovialness to it. I mean, I know we're on about it's like this level of tension and everything else, but there is a level of jovialness and also slight self-deprecation as well. He's coming out with these things, and it's a bit like, I love this song. I will freely admit, I think it's great.
I
So
love it too. It was a big hit for him. I think it gave him a lot of recognition as a
yeah,
solo artist. I know actually in an interview he mentioned that his relationship with Suga from BTS began because Suga heard this song and was like, "Who the hell is this guy? Like, holy shit, I need to get to know this
I can
guy."
tell you now,
And kinda
Sugar will have gone, that bass line. And it will have been the bass line that pulled him in. I can tell you that much now.
hell
He's like,
yeah!
oh, come here.
Hell yeah. Not that you don't think it was the champagne shower
Oh,
lyric that won
fuck
Suga
no.
over? You don't think that was it?
Definitely not. It was
The
that big fat
lyricism
bass
on this
line.
man, I gotta work with this guy. Yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, this was a big hit, and so the music video is fun. I think what we talked about, we both really like is he highlights people from all kind of all different walks of life, and it's
Yeah.
definitely highlights individuals that maybe transgender, which I feel like again is very controversial in Korean culture. So
Mhm.
what a brave move for him
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you've obviously you've got transgender connotations in there. There's obviously gay connotations in there as well. I really like the fact that they haven't stuck with the traditional thing of here's a little Korean doll for a female. You've actually got a
Yeah.
woman there that's a proper woman shape,
Yeah.
and my god, she's the sexiest bloody one out of the lot of them, and it's so nice to see. I love that video. I just think it's cheeky and it's kind of quirky, and you've got all these little sort of innuendo references firing off all the time, all the way through the video, as the lyrics do. And that's the nice thing. It doesn't take itself seriously. The song doesn't take itself seriously. The video definitely doesn't take itself seriously, even though it's got this underlying message of actually all faces are beautiful. But yeah, I love it. It's great. And of course, you've got a wolf in there as well.
I love that he included the wolf, tying it back to the overall album. He said in the interview that he just kind of free danced. He just freestyled throughout the video. And I just think that's so fun to
Yeah.
see him freestyle dance. I have to laugh though. Do we think the ice cream was lactose free? Because otherwise, was Sammy in the bathroom for 2 days after this music video shoot?
Either that or
Did
like
nobody realize the man is lactose intolerant and made him eat ice cream all day?
he probably just ended up triple dosing on his tablets.
Dear God. I'm
You
just
wouldn't
thinking like
honestly,
this poor guy was on the toilet for like
you would not want to be downdraft of it. That's all I'm saying.
I pity who hung
No
out with
way.
him for 2 days after that shoot. Woo! Don't go in there. Don't go in that bathroom after Sammy. Wow. The poor man is just like stomaching that ice cream. Mm. Sorry, Sam. The
Yeah,
things
we
you do
apologize.
for your job.
Yeah, all of this for your art.
And I have to laugh though. I don't know if like Jay and Star Company had a low budget for him in terms of wardrobe, but the outfit he wears, he's wearing this outfit in all the promo videos for Wolf. So all the concept photos are him in this outfit. He wears it on the After School Club interview. He wears it in the Face music video. They make him go out and do some promo thing where he's walking through the streets of Seoul. I'm like, this man's in this outfit. It's the one where it's like this tight black pants and this black jacket and bohemian shirt. And he always has it unbuttoned all the way down. So his entire like little bird chest is out with like his like
Yeah, but I mean, you're knocking that look, but actually, I think that look at that time really suited him. I mean, for the fact that
yeah.
we were in skinny jeans era at that point, he's gonna have to up his game. I know he likes his baggy trousers, but skinny jeans are back for this winter.
Yeah. I miss the skinny jean era, but I just have to I mean, I like the outfit. I think he looked great in it, but I just kind of chuckle because I'm like, that dude had to wear that damn outfit like on every piece of content they made him go out on.
I really
Oh
like
my
that
God. I
shirt
think
as well.
the buttons on the shirt got lower and lower and lower as you look at the content.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, though, I mean, the guy doesn't understand that buttons actually go up to your neck anyway. He's not fathomed that.
Wears He wears that now because he shows off his tattoo, which is very sexy, so I can see why everything's
Mm,
unbuttoned down to that. Alright, so let's switch gears because you couldn't be more different between songs from
yeah.
Face to Lonely, in my
Mm,
opinion. This is interesting. This song came out as actually a pre-release track, so this song was released on July 19th, 2019, where the rest of the album was released on July 25th, 2019. Woosung shared in the Aerang radio interview. We have this linked in our episode description for you listeners if you want to watch that interview as well. That he wrote this song while he was on tour.
So Lonely, that song I wrote it during while I was on tour. Whenever I feel like I feel something and I feel like I need to just get it out, and it's something that I can't really talk about it with people. I just write it on my phone and just write a bunch of like stuff on my phone, and I have a page for that. And it was one of those. It was in one of those pages, and I kind of had to get it out there. And once I write it, I could get out my feelings. So that's what I did. But I didn't know it was gonna be a song, so I just wrote it down. And one day, I just kind of like put a melody for it. That's how it came out. But the point of this song was, like I felt like everybody could kind of feel 공감, which is what?
When you feel what I'm feeling, you
Yeah.
feel me?
Yeah, so I felt like everybody could understand where I'm coming from because everybody is lonely.
He wrote this as kind of a stream of consciousness. And then he decided to put a melody towards it and ended up creating it as a song. And I think he released it because he felt everyone could relate because everyone's felt lonely at one point in their lives. And when I heard him talk about that, Kelly, I thought of something we said in a previous episode about the way he writes lyrics and particularly some of the songs like ILY that sound so poetic. And I think we said in that Into the Void episode and that deep dive for that song, we felt like that was a stream of consciousness. We felt
mm.
like it was almost like a poem that he wrote. And we talked about him doing this sort of thing that he does, like come up with things at times and writes them all down. What's your kind of take on
Well, I mean, I know the listeners can't see this, but I'm actually just going to share my phone with Anne so she can see what singers tend to do.
Yeah, look at
Um,
that.
so my phone, I've just shown her my notes section, and there's about 70 notes in my notes section that are either partial songs, or literally just lines that have come to me while I've been wandering around and I've jotted them down. And they are just streams of consciousness. And sometimes you get this full stream of consciousness that you just have to get out and you write it down as its entirety and it just becomes a piece of poetry. And then other times you'll get 3 or 4 lines and they'll just come to you and then you'll sort of do the Lego thing, as I've said before, and like bolt them together. Personally, I feel like this is poetry. I think he's written this as a steady, almost like automatic writing exercise. I think he has literally sat down when he's been at a low ebb with a pen and a piece of paper. I think he possibly, or I mean, he might have done it on his phone, but I kind of feel with the way that this is written, it's more like a diary entry. Um, and I feel like it would have naturally been he's sort of sat there and handwritten it, and it's like automatic writing. It just pours out of you. Anybody who writes words and poetry and song lyrics will tell you sometimes it's the best form of therapy that anybody can have that's available. That's what this is. It's heart
Yeah, why don't you
wrenching.
go
This song.
through why don't you go through all the details then of composition and so forth for us?
So this is composed, and the lyrics and half of the arrangements all done by Woosung, and he's got on the arrangement he's got Lee Who helping him with this. The beautiful piano that is on it is played by Yu Yang, and it's the same recording engineer, mixing engineer, and mastering engineer as every other track on this EP. So he's stuck with the same team, and it's a team that he's worked with before with the Rose. And I
Mm.
think the reason that Lonely came out as a precursor to the EP is because it kind of stood closer to the work of the Rose. because it's got that
Mm.
heartfelt sort of yearning message behind it, that things like She's in the Rain and that had, so it fit better. I think if it'd have come out with Face straight away, it'd have been a bit like, whoa, what's this? And I think that was a nice
That's a
surprise.
good point.
But we saw him do this with 4444. So I mean, he came out with Day That I Died
Yeah,
first, because to him that was the closest thing to the Rose sound. And then it was just like,
right.
this is what I've done, and this is what it is. And it's definitely what he did with this EP as well. So this is kind of who I am, but this is the evolution of me. And I think that's why we got this one first.
Yeah, what a great point. I didn't think about that, but I completely agree with you. Yeah. I think this piano melody is so lovely.
It is absolutely
So
gorgeous.
jazzy.
So to give you a sort of quick analysis of the actual song, so it's in B flat minor, and it's 93 beats per minute. So we are in kind of plod territory. It is literally a piano and vocal song. And if you listen to the piano, if you try and isolate the piano, it's like easy listening jazz. It's the type of piano that you would have played in a hotel lobby or a high end restaurant. It's not to take any distraction from it. It's a beautiful piece of piano. You've literally got like a 4 chord structure with it, and then it's got some highlighted notes, just a little run, which gives it that little bit of jazziness, and it just very slowly ebbs and flows. I find this song kind of, the music meanders, and it meanders like the thoughts and the lyrics of the song meander as well. How it's sort of, we'll
Right.
go on about this in a bit, but it's sort of how it sort of ebbs and flows, and it's not in a violent way. It's a very subtle sort of snaking sort of to the destination. You don't really have, I mean, there's a drum kit on it, and again, it's an electric drum kit, but it's only really used for highlighting, and it's like a rim shot, so it's a very dry sound.
Mhm.
The main sort of pulse, and that's what it is. It's a pulse. It's not necessarily a drum beat. So you get this like bass pulse, which would have been like a synth pad that would give you this sound to move it forward. Then you have like an egg shaker as well. So there's a very soft egg shaker which gives it that continual warmth, and a lot of times the weird little percussion instruments that you used to be given when you were at primary school to play with, if it wasn't something like a triangle, it'd be like an egg shaker or something like that. I mean, these are used by every band you can ever think of, and it's to fill the sound up, it is to create a warmth, and the lovely little tricks that you just think that's the rubbish that they give you to keep quiet when you're really little at school. But no,
Yeah.
it's a legitimate thing, and there's a reason it's there. And then as you come out of the song, because it does, as I said, it doesn't really sort of build as such. It has a little bit of a sort of,
Mhm.
this sort of snare rim shot comes in, which is very highly processed, so you can't tell it's like a rim shot hit that you traditionally get. And then you get this section at the end as it builds out, and it's a very producer led part. And what would happen with this is they would put an effect on it, and they've basically created what sounds like an old wind up radio. It's got that sort of old radio accordion sound, which sort of, it's almost like, how do I describe it? It's like the music sort of disappears, like the thought disappears. It sort of like goes in a wisp. It's
Mm.
like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and it's gone. And that's kind of how the
Yeah.
thought does as well. So the music does it as well, which is a really nice touch. It's a really sort of clever little production touch, I think, that one.
Yeah, I thought that ending is so unique, and I was asking you, I was like, "What is this sound?" Like, I think it creates such a unique outro. I'm gonna give a shout out to our former, guest, JJ Catalyst. So listeners, if you haven't listened to our episode Into the Catalyst, we had a great interview with mix engineer JJ Catalyst, who has worked with our very own Kelly's band Spectral on their upcoming album. He's also worked with The Rose on 5 songs from the Dual album. And I thought of something that he talked about in that interview of the role of a mix engineer and kind of how he takes all the different aspects of what's been recorded by the artist with the producer, and he figures out how to put them together. And sometimes he might highlight an instrument or vocals or something. And I thought of that with this song in that I feel like the piano melody, as you said, Kelly, it's so simplistic.
Yeah.
But I think it's simplistic for a reason, because I think what it allows is, to me, the focus of this song are truly the vocals. And so
Yeah.
that allows for the focus to be the lyrics. And so we're going to get into the meaning of the lyrics here in a moment. But that's how I feel about the instrumentation of this song. This song isn't about the instrumentation. It's about what he's saying in the
Yes,
song.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and that piano melody, it's so rich. It's so lovely. I like how you describe the meandering, because I think, as you said, we'll talk about in the meaning of the lyrics. The lyrics are a stream of consciousness, and the lyrics go, round and round in some ways. And I think then the melody is doing that.
If you sort of listen to how his melody is formed, so you get these really long, beautiful sort of languishing notes that sort of
Mm,
arc and drift. And then it's sort of like, it's almost like your brain wanders away with you. So you get this long, languishing
mm,
sort of thought, and this note sort of goes off and trails somewhere. And then you get pulled back to reality, and then you'll get the sort of da 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 da, da, and you'll get a quick sort of little flurry of notes, and then it'll go off again. Which again leads this to this sort of meandering and this wandering thought. It's almost like a wandering thought. It's sort of, it's
yeah.
where your head is, and it's this is the lyrics as we get into them are so much a conversation in a head.
Yes.
It's not a conversation out to somebody. This is a real sort of connection of self and of thought and where you are as a person and how you process those thoughts. And I mean, there are many of us that will process thoughts until you've almost got them sorted in your own head. And when you're almost sorted, you then may speak to somebody and just say, "This has happened. This is what I think. Do you think I'm right in my thinking?" And to me, this is kind of that sort of psychological point of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go into the lyrics. Interestingly, with this song, he wrote it completely in Korean. There
Yeah.
is not one line of English in this song. I personally, my opinion on that, I suspect he did that because if this is what we're saying, a stream of consciousness of his thoughts, he has shared in interviews that he thinks in Korean. And so I think that's why this is in Korean, because this is just literally like his thoughts. So I'm going to start with the English translations, and listeners, we will have the full English translations available both on the K Rock Cast website, as well as I'll put them out through our social media platform. So he starts by asking himself questions. Why am I like this these days? Am I lonely? The only thing that has changed is the weather. I also want to depend on people. In fact, there is no one to call or contact. I don't know whether it's my fault. I didn't know then their contact and interest was excessive. They are even like this. Did they feel it? I think it's the only excuse left. If I knew at that time the value of being selfish, I couldn't go back. The old wounds have deepened. I guess you and I weren't meant to be. No matter how much I blame the situation, I said it in a roundabout way, but it's true. I guess you like me less. I don't know whether it's my fault. Even now, I don't know. If what you said was really true, what it became, in the end, it's what's left over. It's just an excuse for the wound. So I'll kinda stop there, because then he kinda keeps repeating himself. This is where it's,
Yeah.
like, starts some of the meandering. Let's break down some of this. This is heavy. What kinda jumps out to you in terms of some of these lines, Kelly?
It's heartbreak, but it's heartbreak that could be from so many things. I
Yeah.
mean, this is somebody who is genuinely recognizing that they are lonely, but are they allowed to feel lonely? Have they created their own loneliness with their behavior? Is it the fact
Yes.
that they are
I
potentially
Yeah.
aloof? And that's pushes people away because they're not open enough, regarding how
Yeah.
they feel. Um, I do I kind of resonate with some of this, and I kind of find it a bit hard. I think when you listen to it in Korean, you just let the melody take over, and it takes you somewhere. You know it's sad, but you don't necessarily understand the deeper context. But when you look into the deeper context of it, I think in a way we can all relate to this, which makes it
Mhm.
even more heartbreaking. Uh, and it works better again, like as I've just said about face, it works better in Korean because if this was in English and it's a more flowery language, because I mean you've got to bear in mind the English language is made up of 10 different languages. I mean we've got
Mhm.
Italian and everything thrown in there and French, it becomes a more flowery language. And actually, this doesn't need to be a flowery language. This is a very honest conversation, and sometimes honest conversations need slightly harsher words and harsher tones. But the way that he's speaking to himself is it's that negative loop of psyche that's sort of
Yeah.
going round. And this is somebody in the throes of depression.
I think so too. He's so raw. He's so
Yeah.
vulnerable in this song. I think it To me, I was almost surprised that he put this out because
Yeah.
it is so raw and vulnerable. So I think it's very brave for him.
It's a very honest declaration of mental health. And
Yeah.
I think you can look at it on a surface level of it's somebody sort of saying, "Why am I lonely? I shouldn't have been a dick." And I mean, you could look at it like that, but actually, I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think there are
Yeah.
almost sort of questions of life and existence in this. Um,
Mhm.
and you can kind of sort of foretell what's going to happen with the Rose and everything else that they're going through because this is the emotional strife that Sammy is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to what he said in that interview. He wrote this while they were on tour. We had our Into the Windfall episode where we talked about ultimately what occurs after this release in February of 2020 when the Rose declare termination of their contract with Jay and Star Company because of a variety of things, one of them being aggressive schedules and
Mm,
not, adhering to their mental health and physical health issues. So I agree with you. I think this was a time he wrote this where he was dealing with depression and feeling
mm,
that. I think the next set of lines are just I feel like they're the ones that hit me the hardest in this song. He says,
mm.
I can't go back. The old wounds have deepened. It is my fault. I know this now. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to being alone, little by little. I'm going to stop there because that line, it's just like he said to himself, and I feel like I think he continues to struggle with this concept of loneliness. I mean, this is one
Mhm.
of his life path numbers, right? The
Yeah.
lonely artist. He's a 7. I just feel like even though he has in his life a solid group of friends and family that he can lean on and he can confide in. I just think he has this underlying, like, I've just kind of like saying to himself, I've just come to this realization that it's okay to be alone, right? The song Happy Alone,
Yes.
right? And I think this is what I hear him saying in here. I'm getting used to being alone little by little. Like, it's just like as time passes, I'm just accepting it, that this is, how it
So,
is for me.
so to sound cold and analytical, we all come into this world alone. We all leave this world alone. And if you
Yeah.
cannot cope with being alone and being comfortable in your own company, that says more about you as an individual. The fact
Yeah.
than it does about anybody else. It's okay to be lonely. Everybody is lonely at some point in their life, whether that comes from grief or whether that just comes from circumstance. We all go through it, and it is something that many people battle with. But there is solace in being lonely because we are just even though we are multiply connected around the world and we have soul tribes. I truly believe in soul tribes and everything else. Everybody is their own independent universe within themselves.
Yeah.
And this to me is a song. Yes, it's depression. Yes, it is. Um, it is. It harks to this sort of. The thing is, actually, I was going to say, I think it harks to this desire of not being lonely. I think it's actually more an acceptance of being lonely. I don't think he's sort of pleading
Yeah.
for somebody to come into his life to complete him. Because, I mean, I've said this many and many a
Right.
time. People don't complete you, you complete yourself. And when you are a
Right.
complete person and you are happy with yourself, that is when all the connecting dots in the world come together and you become a greater sum of. And to me, this is kind of what it's saying. He's getting used to being lonely, and it's
Yeah.
a coming of age song as well. I think this
Yeah,
one.
I agree with that. I think he changes and turns in his thoughts in this kind of
Mm.
open letter, right? This consciousness that's coming out of him, to here at the end, he says, "Everyone is like this. Is everyone lonely? My heart is empty like an empty street. If I knew at that time the value of being selfish, I can't go back. The old wounds have deepened." So, yeah, I think he turns the corner in his thoughts to himself at the end.
Yeah.
To I agree with you. He's finding like solace in being lonely. I don't think he's looking for someone to complete him either. I think
No,
he's becoming content in
there's an
being
acceptance.
alone, and
Uh,
acceptance. And I think again, to kind of show his evolution as his maturity, to think of, to me, some of the songs he wrote on 4444. I know I shared this in another episode. One of my interpretations of found you is finding love in yourself. And I
mm,
I think, you see in these later songs more of his comfort in that love of himself. And I
mm.
think at this time in his maturity, it was him still figuring that out, right?
Yeah.
Um,
The line that literally hits me every single time is the old wounds have deepened.
mhm.
That's the line that hits me. You never forget things that have mortally wounded you. Um, that you live with them. And it's like survival instinct. And you get to a point where you have to um you don't cover up those wounds. Those wounds exist. Those wounds are part of you. Your scars are part of you. But you get to a point where those scars don't actually deepen any longer. You recognize and know the patterns, and you can go, actually, we're here again. You don't, it's like trauma response. And this to me it kind of has that feeling of trauma response. This is somebody that feels like he's been abandoned, and this song is his trauma response to feeling abandoned again and again
Yeah.
and again. And you then start to, if you see patterns emerge with the world around you, you then start to question whether or not it's you that's creating those patterns. So I think this is why he's then questioning himself of, is it me being selfish? Or was I
Mhm.
not being selfish enough? And this is where we go back and forth to this meandering, but it's this sort of depth of wound, that old wounds have deepened, and literally that bit sends shudders through me. Even in
I know, and I
Korean, even in Korean, that bit sends shudders through me.
think back to, and I, wonder again when this was written in terms of some of the writing he did for the Rose and the Dawn album, the Take Me
Mm,
Down lyric, your tattoos as scars, and
yeah,
we had some really great rich conversation in that
yeah,
song about that. And I feel like it's kind of harking back to that same thing that you're talking about, that trauma that just really
it is.
never does go away.
Yeah, it never goes away. It's always there. It's just the fact that it gets buried, or you can sort of, silly as it sounds, there's the wound, let's decorate around it. We know what it is. It's there. We're well aware of what it is.
Yeah.
And you can just move forward with it. I mean, things will always trigger you, but to less an extent. So the further you move away from the trauma, those trigger signals get less and less and less. And I know you understand this as well from your personal circumstances, like
Mhm.
I understand this from my personal circumstances. So I think for us too, this song hits quite hard because we can take those emotions on board and recognize them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listeners, that wraps up our deep dive into the Wolf album. I know this one, if you listeners are newer fans of The Rose, maybe you haven't really given this album a listen. Even if you're an old school fan, this is probably one that might not come out of your discography very often. It's a great album. I think just seeing his
Fabulous album.
evolution as a songwriter, it's been really fun to kind of go back and see where he started in
Yeah.
terms of his songwriting and reflect on how far he's come as a songwriter, because he's come a long way.
Hey, there's no Sam and Ham in this. It's come a long, long way.
God, I can't wait till we do that song. Oh God, beautiful girl. The cringiest lyrics in the
In the
entire
world
world.
ever. I just want to know where the green eggs are.
Oh God. See, these are the pickup lines the man has in his back pocket. This is what we're working with here.
It's the moment you turn around and say, that's all right, Sam, I'm vegetarian. Bye.
Oh God. All right, listeners, let's wrap up with our humor segment. Kelly, I have a fun would you rather for you.
Who,
So I
who,
felt
no,
like
no, 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 stop now. Right? Who is this fun for? Because I've got a feeling this is not fun for Kelly.
this is fun for
no, no,
me. I
no, no,
am
no.
being evil.
This, I have a feeling this is going to upset Kellyanne. This is what's going to happen, isn't it? This is going to upset me.
I felt like I just gave too much of a fun one last time. Gaming with Jay or
Oh, yeah.
Marvel movie marathon with
Oh, yeah.
Dojun. It was too
It's
fun.
okay. Go on then. Hit me with your best shot.
Okay, I'm hitting you with my best one. So, you are stuck in a car on a road trip. Let me set the scene. And you are in this car for 10 hours. And
Okay.
it's a
Right.
tiny car.
Stop. Right there. Right. So we're driving for 10 hours. Okay.
Yes.
And it's a tiny car. So we're in a European car. Now you think all cars are
Yes.
small. Obviously you're American. I'm used to tiny cars. I like a little go-kart sort of sports car because that's more my type of thing.
Yeah.
So my next question
Yeah.
to you, before we get any deeper, who's driving?
Ooh. I'm gonna say you're driving.
Okay, good. Okay, so
And this
okay,
person is
that's
your
not too bad.
passenger.
If I'm driving, that's okay. That's okay. I can cope with most things if I'm driving.
Okay. You're driving and this person is your passenger. So, would you rather have Sammy, who is only speaking to you in his bad British accent the entire time? And we know this. So listeners, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this about Sammy, but Kelly and I talk about this all the time. He has this weird thing that he loves to drop into this bad British accent a lot.
Yeah, he
What
does.
is that?
I don't
So
know.
this is like his, what does he always say? Can I have some more, sir? Can I have some more? Does he did he watch Oliver as a kid all the time?
Oh, well, I mean,
Like, what is
you will hear it in a little bit with our little jingle for click here.
our little jingle? Listeners, if you've never noticed it, you seriously need to like now pay attention in content. He does this all the time. It's like really weird.
Oh no! Did nobody hear it on the live either? Because I heard it on the live. What did we get? It's all right.
I know he did say that in the last live stream. It's like some weird thing with him. I don't know where it's going. So he's talking to you the whole time in this horrible British accent. The whole time.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Please, sir, can I have some more? Mr. Bumbo, can I have some more water?
Am I allowed to punch him?
Of course you are.
That's fine.
Or, okay, so your other choice is Hajun, but he's going to argue back with everything you say.
Oh God, no! Because this is like
So if you say you got to make a left, he's going to say, no, I know it's a right. We take a right here. I know we do. He's going to argue back at everything you say for 10 hours. Or Sammy talking in British accent.
Why do you do
Come on, Kelly.
this?
Kelly, take a right here. No, take a right here, Kelly. Let me give you the directions in a British accent, Kelly.
Oh no!
Please, sir, can I have some more? Water?
Or what was the thing when he was in London when he did the 444? Oh, ting, because he'd picked up on the fact that obviously they don't say thing in London; it's a ting.
It's a ting.
It's a ting. Can you pass me that ting? You see,
Yep,
God help.
That's how he's going to talk to you the whole
God help
time.
him if he ever comes up north. Because then you get wonderful. I mean, he's got to be used to it. Because I mean, bearing in mind James, who does their like tour managing and sound engineering and everything else, he's from a similar area to me. I think he's probably about 10 miles away from where I live. And to be perfectly honest, I'm amazed that he's not just stood and mini-moked him. So he's not cracked the
That's what
northern
I'm saying.
accent.
I wonder if he does.
I am waiting for the day that James will crack the line and he'll just say something like tin, tin, tin. That's lost you, hasn't it?
I know. I wonder if when he talks. Yeah, I don't know what that means when you talk this foreign language.
Right, okay. So that one, no. Tin, tin, tin is it isn't in the tin. Tin, tin, tin. It's legit.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate Yorkshire term, darling. Tin, tin, tin.
I bet when he's around James, his sound engineer, he probably does fall into like a British accent
will
around him.
do.
It's just like a thing he does.
I'm surprised he's not like potentially sort of electrocuted him on purpose on stage. Sorry, it
All right.
wasn't
So what do you think
properly.
what do you think would bother you more?
Why would you
I know,
do
because
this?
you said you like to argue, so maybe you'd like Hajun, who's
don't
like
like
disagreeing with
arguing.
everything you say.
I don't know, but the thing is, I don't like arguing. In that sense, I will happily debate with people. I love bickering with people. There's a huge difference between me going, I know we need to turn left here, and the arsehole sat next to me doing the dickhead move and going, no, let's go right. No. No. So if I've got Hajuni in the car with me, and he's arguing about every bloody thing I say. I will do the one thing that I remember my dad doing as a kid. And I mean, if you're from the beautiful British Isles, you will understand that we have roads in the UK that are literally they're dual roads. There's traffic coming either way, but they are only just wide enough to get a car down. And one of my best memories ever of my dad, and this I think this kind of explains some of my genetics as well and some of my mental makeup, was the fact that he was driving down this road and it was his right of way and a guy was driving the other way, and they got into an altercation because he wanted my dad to reverse basically half a mile so he could pull back. My dad being my dad, turned the engine off and the keys out of the ignition and threw the keys into the field at the side.
Oh my gosh.
So you saying having Hajun in the car arguing with me, you know I would pull up, turn off the car, and those car keys are going. This girl's got a daddy temper.
Now you and Hajun are walking the rest of the way.
Well, he's walking. I'll find the keys.
And then go zoom off without him.
Not until he's scarpered. So we're assuming that me having to put up with Sammy doing his British accent, can he put up with me doing my Valley Girl accent?
Ooh, I think that makes it even better. Then you talk back to him as a Valley Girl, and he'll talk to you in his British accent.
Yeah, like, honestly, it's like completely and utterly legitimate. I mean, I think I drive him mad. Why the hell not? Oh my God. He'd like completely lose his mind. And I'd just be like really bitchy with it as well and just keep it going and just get higher and higher and higher and more nasally. Oh my God. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that'd drive him up the wall.
That is perfect. I think that's perfect.
So yeah.
I just want to be a little mouse in this car trip.
Just be a fly on the windscreen just to view what's happening.
Yeah.
Also, the fact though, what would actually drive him more mad? Me doing a Valley Girl accent for 10 hours or me driving for 10 hours?
Ooh, I don't know.
Because we know the guy likes his cars.
I
I think
know that.
Oh yeah. No, he's a motorhead. I think it'd drive him more up the wall that I was driving than the Valley Girl accent.
I didn't know that about Sammy.
Yeah,
I didn't know that about Sammy. I didn't know he was into cars.
Oh no, he's seriously into cars and like racing and stuff like that. I think if he'd got his time again, he'd probably have a go at getting a super license. I remember him once saying I can't remember what was it was his station head or something, that he still quite wanted to do that, and we know he loves anything with a bit of speed and go-karting and things like that. So yeah, the thought of him with a super license is a scary idea. Anyway, who would you
so he probably wouldn't like.
So you've picked this. What would you pick before I give my answer?
Oh my God, oh my God, this is totally easy for me because I will wholeheartedly admit I will be happy to be in a car with Sammy for 10 hours. Plus, I love doing bad British accents.
I know
and his name is perfect.
Drives me fucking mad.
I know. Sammy, it's like perfect. I could just say Sammy all the time. Sammy, I think we need to stop and get a spot of tea, Sammy. Let's have a bite to eat. Sammy, you have to pull over. I have to go to the loo. See, it's perfect.
Right, so can I just ask a question? When I say the word or the noun Sammy, do I sound quite as annoying as you do when you say Sammy? If anybody remembers EastEnders, and I think there was a character on that called Bianca, and she was like, "Oi, Ricky!" It's like Sammy. Oh please, God,
Sammy.
Oh please, I hope I do not sound like that when I say the word Sammy.
No, you don't. You have
Right.
a lovely British accent. I can only say, "Hello, governor." say he'll say, "Sir, I want some more." And I'll say, "Hello, governor."
You know, when you finally come over to the UK to see me, please, for the love of God and all that is holy, do not do that. Brits are lovely, warm, welcoming people. They will smile at you in the street. They will talk to you in an elevator. They will invite you in for a cup of tea. And when they say, "Do you want a cup of tea?" it's not a general offer. They will generally make you a cup of tea, and they'll get the biscuits out and everything. They'll even get the good tin of Foxes out. But you pull that shit. Ooh, no. That, just don't do that. Please don't do that.
Sammy, we have to pull over. I need a bottle of water. He'll say, "Oh, Anne, you need a bottle of water? We can get a bottle of water." See? Oh my God, it'd be so fun.
I can't even get my head around what you've just said. Did you say, "Can we pull over and get a bottle of water"? Is that what you just said? Can we pull over, Sammy, and get a bottle of water?
Oh my God. The worst thing is put Sammy and I on this road trip throughout England and let us as two Americans go talking in our horrible British accents on our road trip.
You do realise 10 hours in the UK and you've pretty much done the breadth of England. You can start at growth and you'll probably end up in Newcastle for 10 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Doing the B roads
too
as
funny.
well. Oh God.
Well, listeners, let us know what you would pick. And let us know if you've noticed this weird quirk about Sammy and his like British accent that he loves to come out with all the time. I don't know what his fascination is.
I've
with
just
it,
realised I've got
it's
away without
hysterical.
saying which one I'd deal with.
I thought you said you picked Sammy. I'm sorry.
I've got
I
away
thought that's
with
what you said.
I'd punch both of them, to be perfectly honest.
I thought you said you picked Sammy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I probably would, because I know I could be more annoying than him.
Yeah, you're gonna talk in your Valley Girl. He's gonna talk in his British accent.
And I can scare the shit out of him with my driving.
I think it sounds like an awesome road trip. Well, listeners, tell us what you would pick. Poor Hajun. Nobody wants to argue with you, Hajun. Sorry, buddy. You're not getting picked this time. Join us next time. I think our next one is we're gonna go back into the Garage Files. Kelly, I think we need to catch up on our Garage Files and episodes 5 and 6 of the photosynthesis series. Listeners, please rate our podcast. Leave us comments about this episode. We love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media if you haven't already. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and X. We're at KRock_cast across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com and check out our website, www.krockcast.com. As we mentioned, we'll have the English translations of all the songs from the Woof album available for you to read through on our website. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.